When I first came on YouTube and started doing videos on opioids, one of the big things that came out around that time was the number of white males that were dying from the drug opposed to females. Now, the females are certainly dying from it, but not quite at the same high rate. And another thing that was prevalent was the fentanyl was rising and spreading across the country. Now, recently, China said they got other things they have to do, in their country. They don't have time to worry about all of these fentanyl deaths that's happening in the US. So they are literally not doing anything to stop the fentanyl from coming in. They don't care. They don't care. They said they got to focus on their own people. So here we are today. And what do we see? We see the same thing. White males leading in opioid deaths. This came out in Breitbart, March 25th, 2019. Feds, opioid plague killing young white men more than any other Americans. The nation's opioid plague is killing young white American men more than any other demographic group, new research from the federal government reveals. The latest report from the Center for Disease Control finds that young white men in the United States are dying at the fastest rate from fentanyl, the deadly opioid where 1 pound can kill more than 220,000 people. Yes, it don't take much fentanyl to kill a lot of people. Between 2011 and 2016, fentanyl overdose deaths increased more than 1,000%. And the thing is, it has increased mostly among white men. Now, if a lot of people across many demographics were doing a lot of these drugs, wouldn't it be a mixture of people? But that's not what we're seeing. In 2011, for example, there were about 1,660 Americans who died of fentanyl overdoses. Fast forward to 2016, when there were 18,335 Americans who died from fentanyl. And you can see on the chart how it increased from 2011, 2012, 13, 2014, 2015, and 2016. That's a significant jump. And that's really not a long period of time when you really look at the scheme of things. The opioid plague, though, is not impacting all states and demographic groups in the country equally, the CDC report finds. White Americans have a significantly higher rate of dying from fentanyl than any other racial group in the US. For instance, non-Hispanic whites' rate of fentanyl overdose deaths increased in early 110% between 2013 and 2016. So that's a 3-year period. In 2016, close to 8 out of every 100,000 non-Hispanic whites died from fentanyl overdoses, more than 3 times the rate of Hispanic Americans dying from fentanyl. Black Americans followed whites with a rate about 5.6 deaths for every 100,000, followed by Hispanics at 2.5 per 100,000. But you know what? They're right. It really depends on what part of the country. Now, I come from Pennsylvania originally, and over there, the Hispanics are dying at a higher rate than even the white people. So it really depends on what part of the country and the demographics, of course. American men are dying from fentanyl at nearly 3 times the rate of American women. In 2016, there were almost 9 men who died of fentanyl for every 100,000, compared that to the roughly 3 women who died of fentanyl for every 100,000 women. For young people, the opioid plague is even worse. The CDC finds that between 2011 and 2016, the number of fentanyl overdose deaths for Americans aged 25 years old to 34 years old increased 100% every year. Wow, that's a lot. For Americans aged 15 to 24, the number of fentanyl overdose deaths increased almost 94% every year between 2011 and 2016. No wonder why they are talking about Narcan in public schools now. Now you can understand why. Out of every 100,000 young Americans in 2016, there were 13.4 who died of fentanyl overdoses. For every 100,000 Americans aged 34 to 44 years old, there were 11.4 who died of fentanyl overdoses. And you can see the chart here pertaining to age. Wow. So the biggest group is 25 to 34, then 35 to 44, 45 to 54, and look like the 15 to 24 and 55 to 64 are neck and neck right here. And then it's much lower for the people 65 and older. The rise in fentanyl overdose is concentrated largely in 3 regions of the country, which includes Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. Wow. In the most northeast states of the country, the number of Americans dying from fentanyl overdoses increased almost 11.4% every year between 2011 and 2016. In the New Jersey and New York area, fentanyl deaths increased 111% every year over the last 6 years. And in the Delaware, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia region, fentanyl deaths increased about 104% every year. Yeah, that's true. I can tell you here in my state, it's going through the roof. It's going crazy in the Northeast. I do agree with this part of the article. Absolutely. The American Midwest saw a 102% increase every year between 2011 and 2016 of fentanyl overdose deaths. Last year, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agency seized enough fentanyl to kill nearly twice the U.S. population, Breitbart News reported. And for the first time, Americans are now more likely to die from an accidental opioid overdose than from injuries in a car crash. Yes, and even homicides. It surpasses homicides too. I mean, this is a mess that America really is in right now. And they are just really helpless in stopping this thing, especially the way that they're doing it. Drug overdoses in 2017 killed an unprecedented 72,287. U.S. residents, nearly 3 times the number of individuals killed by global terrorism, and 10,000 more than the number of Americans killed in the Vietnam War. And ladies and gentlemen, I always want you to remember when they give you this 72,000 number, that's based on only 22 states. The other states in the US do not report their numbers to the CDC. So you're really not getting the full picture of how bad it is. Nearly 50,000 of those deadly overdoses were caused by either heroin or fentanyl. So no matter what efforts your agencies like the DEA and ICE and even your postal service make, if China is not going to do anything on their end, all of this is in vain. It really is. This nightmare is still in full effect when it comes down to drug deaths in America. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.